Yes, welcome to the No State Project live from the fortified compound here in Mesa, Arizona. Glad to be with everybody today, and hope everyone files in. So, welcome again to the No State Project for January 8th, 2018. What the hell is the matter with me? No, I don't think it's 2018 anymore. It's more like 2003, if anything. So that's really where it seems to be at lately. You wake up, I think it was Sunday morning. I think it was 2003 again. But glad everyone is here today. I will connect to my caller line. I should have had that done already, but just one of those days where we're running a little bit behind. But hey, given the history of the show, I think kind of lucky we made it live just to begin with. But I've actually done not too bad the last number of shows. I've been able to get through relatively unscathed without the tech issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to my caller line with everything muted. So hopefully everything goes through the way it should. I'll know here in a second. But if you want to join me, it is 218-632-9399. 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with the pound sign. Hey, I was able to do it. We're all ready to go on the caller line. So again, 218-632-9399 is the number to dial, and the passcode 2020 with the pound sign. That'll get you into the queue. Yes, mahalo and aloha, everybody. January 8th, 2020. And you can also get me on Skype at Frank Rizzo 3. I was told about the Discord, and I don't remember. I think we have a No State Project Discord that's set up. So I'm not through the learning curve, so I've only used Discord a handful of times. I'm not the best at using it yet. I see it, but it's No State Project on Discord. So if you would like to join me or you have a question or a comment, I'll do what I can to check that often. Although it may be like when I did that horrible phone call with the lawyer a few weeks ago. I get all the notifications, so I did not turn off my notifications. So how do you? Yeah, you see, these are things that are supposed to be done, before you go. Okay, so I'm gonna. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of the notifications here, and hopefully we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so it is No State Project. So somebody wants to join me on there. Skype is still going to be the easiest way for me for right now until I learn how to navigate that. So we'll see what we've got over there. I want to thank everyone for their continued support of the show. If you'd like to be able to help support the show, it is markstevens.sales.com and markstevens.net, which is, of course, my website. And you can get government indicted and the scripts and the templates for the motions to dismiss. And while you're there, you can check out the success stories. I apologize. I did not get last week's success story posted. I will do that this week. And so someone's, I don't have the link. Whoever has the link to join on the Discord, if you can drop that in, please do so. Someone's saying that they left the Discord because it was dead. Well, we're trying to revive that. So, KJ is saying here, I have a question. Can I talk to you after the live personally? Well, for something like that, we got to kind of set up a consult, and I do have an appointment right after the show today anyway. So, but if you want to set an appointment, you go to markstevens.sales.com, and then we can set up an appointment. One of these guys saying no one can drop links without mod perms. No, you can drop the link and I will allow it. So I'd be like, Senor Chang, I'll allow it. If it's to my Discord, yeah, absolutely, I will allow that. So One of the things is probably going to, well, maybe we'll see. Maybe I'll run out of time, but I'll get to the calls first. But like I mentioned already, you would think it's 2003 because I can't say that the drums of war are being beaten, at least in the media, because it was nonstop in the media 2001 to 2003 about going to Iraq and going into Afghanistan. So here we have a top level general in the Iranian government assassinated. Who knows what to believe other than he was assassinated. Some are reporting that he was actually supposed to be helping in mediation to de-escalate things, and he flies into Iraq and gets killed. So, but when you've got someone like the president, Donald, the Bone Spur guy, 5 times getting out of Vietnam for the Bone Spurs, the alleged Bone Spurs, doesn't stop him from playing golf half the day. But when you got a draft dodger who's a war hawk, who says he's not, but he has been provoking Iran from day one, even though I don't want to get into a whole discussion about this guy, but this is the guy that was saying that if he doesn't believe and he doesn't take the word of any of the intelligence agencies, but he's going to believe them here. Thing is, everything that comes out of the man's mouth is a demonstrable lie. So that's some, few things he says that's the truth. When he said, "I don't stand by anything," that was the truth. That was the truth. I don't think the Discord link has been posted yet. And so maybe we're not going to be using that today. I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to do a better job for the Saturday show. Where's the big show? Are you kidding me? Someone's got to tell Stahl where the show is. I don't think he's right about it. I don't know why he's saying that. Anyway, let me get to the callers. We're starting to get lined up. I'll get back to the warmongering if we've got the time. We'll see how things go with the calls here today. See, I'm going to unmute everything, and we're going to go to Mac in BC. Hopefully we got some good news. Mac in BC, how you doing today?
Hey, Mark. I'm doing okay. Sorry, I'm on the road.
Well, it sounds it.
Hello? Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, you got my email correspondence with that the guy working for the Consumer Protection senior director at, or whatever he's called, at Consumer Protection Agency there. So I asked my questions. I'm not sure if you read the email, and he just came back with the same answer, just stating the act and the statute. I'm trying to get them to admit that, it's because I'm in BC, the act applies, but he didn't quite admit it. He just said, we oversee all these things in BC. This guy is not understanding what I'm talking about when I'm saying jurisdiction. So I'm going to have to give him a call, I think, but did you have a chance to read through the email or no?
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get back. It's been a pretty horrendous week. Well, if you do call, you want to make sure that you get them to admit their foundational claim. You're asking, look, well, isn't the basis of jurisdiction and the applicability of your laws, isn't that based on the Constitution applying? Just because I
didn't want to bring that up. I was waiting for him to bring that up, but so you're saying it's okay for me to ask that and get them to admit that, right?
Well, yeah, if you don't bring it up, they may not necessarily admit it. That's why I talk so much about getting them to admit to what their foundational claim is. So once they say yes, then you can now you've got them. You've got their position. Now you can start asking questions for the facts to prove that claim is true. But you have to have the facts. I mean, you have to have the claim on the table first. And they don't always volunteer that. In fact, a lot of times they don't. The less they have to say, the better. I mean, that's why you can see videos that I have or phone, where people have called and reported that when we're in court or we're in an administrative hearing challenging the prosecution's foundational claim, they usually stand mute. They don't say anything. I mean, don't say I'm not exaggerating. They don't say a single word in their own defense. You can stand there and accuse them of prosecutorial misconduct and ethical violations, and they won't say a word in their own defense. They don't have a defense, because the less they say, the better.
Okay.
So
then how do I proceed after that? Like, and I've heard all your shows. I kind of finally am understanding what you meant by that. By, like, we got to get them to admit it so I can ask him. And then once he says that, then I ask for the facts. They're just going to blow up. So what do I do? Do I say, okay, well, let's take this to the next level? Like, should I get information about how they want to pursue that?
Well, it depends on what their response is. When you said they blow up, they could just get mad and not answer any questions. And I think now you've got an issue of not only they're bullying you and they're exercising bad faith, in that if they had the evidence, they would provide it. And given the fact that they are the ones making the accusation, they bear the burden of proving that. So that's what I would focus on. Look, sir, I want to resolve this. Do you or do you not have evidence of jurisdiction to even require this of me? And when he says yes, I've already told you that, yes, and you base it off of the presumption that if I'm physically in Canada, your Constitution applies, and that's the basis of your jurisdiction, right? You said that, yeah. Well, if you can establish that if you can show that you have any facts to prove that claim is true, we can settle this right now.
Okay.
If he's not going to give you an inch, then it may be something that has to go to court, unfortunately, or an administrative hearing, but you'll be able to use those statements against them. You'll be able to look, they agree that this is their foundational claim. He admitted it on the phone on January 5th. And despite, having the burden of proof, when I ask him for the facts it's based on, he refuses to answer.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess I'm just playing it too much in my head. Like, he'll be like, well, that's obvious. You're in Canada. We have laws, and laws are here for the betterment. So, of course, the laws apply.
Well, and if he says something like that, we'll say, sir, if it's obvious that they apply, then you have some facts that would actually prove that, right? Instead of just telling me they apply, do you have the evidence to back up the claim? I mean, I've even asked him, look, I've asked him point blank, like with the IRS, you're not going to go to court, you're not going to seek to prosecute me, without evidence, right? Well, oh, okay, well, all right, so just provide the evidence and we can get this off the docket right now.
Okay.
Again, it doesn't mean they're going to do the right thing. It doesn't mean they're going to turn around and say, "Oh my gosh, Mac from BC, oh you got me. I don't have any. I have a tax agent, tax counsel in California, admitting that the assessment was based on an assumption. The foundational claim was an assumption. Absolutely nothing else was relevant if there wasn't, a solid factual foundation. He admits it's an assumption, and he doesn't care. He went forward anyway. It didn't matter. Why? Because the administrative law judge had us back. And that's the way things typically go in tax cases, unfortunately.
So it's just a long, drawn-out fight, I guess. That's just what we're in for.
It can be.
Same, right?
It can be. Even in the best circumstances, as these things can be drawn out. I mean, they're fleecing a lot of other people. They've got a lot of pensions to take care of, a lot of money to get. So you're not the only one on the docket. And if you're, being a thorn in their side, of course you're going to go to the end of the line, and they're not going to make it a priority. I wish when we're a thorn in their side more often that they say, well, it's not worth it, and they kick it out. But, we get a lot of those, but, I wish there was a lot more. You just put up a good, solid, effective defense and let them know that you're not going to back down for an inch, and you will challenge literally every claim that they make. And they forgot, well, there's other fish to fry over here. We got 700 people we can prosecute and get their money in the time it's going to take to go through, one proceeding with this guy. So.
Yeah, now if I use words like rules, can I, paraphrase or in my own words, right? Or these are a set of rules here. And within the rules, it says you're overseeing contracts. and but you can't use what's in with. Like, how would I word that with him? Like, so you're using what's within the rules to say that the rules apply.
You want to go. You got to bring them back to the foundational claim. See, so whether your laws in fact apply is based on the presumption that if I'm physically in Canada, okay, that your Constitution and the laws therefrom apply. And when they say yes, okay, well let's talk about what your foundational claim there. That what the laws say, the statute or the code is not. It's not even relevant until you've proven that your foundational claim that the laws apply because you're physically in Canada. I mean, yes, okay. you could have a decent discussion and show that that what they're saying is not factually accurate and that it's illogical. Because you could ask them, are you saying, and I have calls to shame with this. So your position is the laws apply because the laws say so.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it.
Now, that obviously is circular logic. It's the same as it's fallacious. It's the same as saying that the Bible is true because the Bible says so. No, that's just not the way logic works. Now, there are people who think, and they've been on the show, and they've been extremely persistent, dogging me every single show practically, okay, that is as far as they need to go. It doesn't matter if it's illogical. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make any actual sense. It's just literally legalistic gibberish. That's as far as they have to go. That is a factual statement. All they have to do is point to the law. No, that's not what's going on here. Their position is the laws apply because they say so. That doesn't make any sense. Something that they hurl at me every show, which is accurate, something is not true just because you say it. So just because they write it down doesn't mean it actually applies. That's why I typically go to the foundation before we can get to, before what the laws say has any relevance at all. We have to establish that the law applies. Here I'm talking, when I say law, I'm talking about the Constitution, which is the foundation for the authority of the statute or the code. So the codes only apply if the Constitution does. I mean, any half idiot knows that. Any half idiot should be, would know that. Well, yeah, you got a point there. The laws the laws of Arizona don't apply in Mexico because the Constitution has no application there. That's it's a little different with the federal Constitution because they believe that the Constitution attaches to you, so no matter where you go, it still applies. I think that's ridiculous and on its face, but I've explained that many times and can again if we have time in the show. But you want to get them and ask a leading question so that they will admit what their foundational claim is, and they always admit. I have call of shames, plenty of them from Canada, where they all admit the same thing. I have the law professor too, and I have prosecutors. Their presumption, they operate under the presumption if you're physically in Canada, the constitutional laws apply. That's it. That's all they have. That's it. They have no evidence to prove it's true, but that's the foundational claim. So we ask a leading question so that they will make that admission, and now we have something to work from. We have a foundation, a first step to go from to then examine their claims that the codes apply.
So is it kind of weak for me to be like, well, I have a set of rules that say this code doesn't apply? I have a piece of paper here that I've written that says, these statutes don't apply to me. Like, is that kind of a waste of time?
I've talked about how, a lot of sovereign citizen types and freemen on the land, have attempted that. And I've even tried to, I've just discussed it on the show from an anarchist perspective, basically that you're stateless and under international law. But they won't accept it. And that just goes, they may even claim, well, that's that. And that's not even something that you can say is philosophical, because the international law claim is made all the time by, unfortunately, criminals, like Milosevic. And even Saddam Hussein, I believe, made that claim also, where they're attacking the validity and of the court that's trying them, whether it's the International Criminal Court in The Hague or wherever it happens to be. So it's not, that it's rejected on philosophical, that, oh, that's philosophy, we can't accept that. But even if it was philosophical, how is that any different than the claim the prosecutor is making when the critics all say, well, that's political or political philosophy, and courts can't hear that? Well, if I counter with my own, what do? Do you have a stalemate? Well, the judge has he's got two political questions here. He can't address either one of them. Oh, he's going to go ahead and he's going to address the one that favors the prosecution, of course.
Yeah. I was just saying to kind of show the absurdity of their argument. Like, here's a set of rules. Like, just because there's a set of rules, it doesn't mean, like, they apply unless they actually apply.
Right. Well, I use the NFL or the Olympics as an analogy to show that, yeah, they have their rules. They don't apply to everybody just because they say so. They apply to certain people. And exactly. And this is why I talked last week about the issue of ethics. I'm not saying that we're going in and we're going to make an explicit due process violation argument based strictly on ethics. You can use the ethics argument as far as the prosecutorial misconduct, because the prosecutor is arguing without evidence, and they're candor towards the court, where, let's say, they're saying something that's misleading. So you absolutely can, in a legal argument, make an ethical claim that the prosecutor is violating the rules of ethics. It's the same thing when you go into a Section 455 or any motion to change the judge for bias and prejudice. You're basically saying that he's violating the judicial canons of ethics. So, but again, those are certain arguments that you can make based on the unethical behavior of the judge and the prosecutor, which is purely, it's a valid, if you've got the facts, it's a valid defense. But we're still not going to go in, and when we're making these arguments, when we're making these claims that they don't have evidence to support their claim, that's not explicitly an ethical argument. I'm not arguing philosophy. What I'm arguing is it's just that it's that position. It's looking at it from an ethical position, why we can be so confident to make the challenge to their assertion the laws apply, because they are not an ethical organization. They are dishonest. But that doesn't mean in the paperwork they are unethical. They are unethical. No, I'm not saying to you or anyone else to do that unless you're filing a motion for judicial misconduct or to change the judge, or it's prosecutorial misconduct, because now you're quoting Rule 3.1 and 3.3 of the canons of the professional ethics rules for prosecutors and lawyers.
Okay. Well, I got to listen back to that. Okay, thank you. I'll update you, shoot you an email after I talk to him on the phone, and let you know what happened.
All right. Well, good luck. I appreciate the call. I'm looking forward to hearing what they say.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care. Bye.
Appreciate the call, Mac. Yeah, we don't want to shy away from what their position is, because you got to know exactly what it doesn't. Even if they say this is exactly what their foundational claim is, it's A, B, C. When you challenge it, it doesn't mean they're not going to lie and violate 3.3, candor towards the court, and just lie that I never said that. You're twisting my words. I never said that. Yes, you did. Just like that prosecutor in Saskatoon. I didn't say that. No, yes, you did. I'm not on record. I wrote it down. I didn't say it. You're twisting my words. Okay, what did you mean when you said, I don't have to prove that and the judge won't make me? What did you mean by that, other than I don't have to prove? These sons of... Oh, these friggin' people, I tell you, I swear, the dishonesty of these lawyers and these judges, these prosecutors. It's just as bold as you have in the Senate right now with Moscow Mitch and Lindsey Graham, where they say, I'm not even pretending to be fair. It's that brazen when you go into some of these courts. It's that brazen. That's why it took how many decades before they impeached a federal judge? How much time has to go between those? Which I don't think he was prosecuted and put in prison for embezzlement and financial crimes, kickbacks. So it's good to be one of the king's men. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, right. That's what they tell me. That's what Mel Brooks said. Oh, real quick, I'll get to this call in a second. I did actually get to watch the Netflix movie with Zac Efron. I wound up watching it only because Friends isn't on Netflix anymore. You streaming a-holes. Everyone's got to have their own streaming service. Well, I guess it's back to Terrarium TV for me. So anyway, yeah, because they started jacking up the price 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much money for the same CDs, same DVDs. So I was watching the Zac Efron movie, and it was one of those. What the hell am I looking at? Near the end of the movie, I'm telling you this. I had to watch the end of the movie to go through the credits to make sure I saw who I saw. But right at the end, near the end of the movie, none other than James Hetfield from Metallica was in that movie about, I don't know, something vile, or I can't remember the name of it. But if you go to Netflix, you could just look it up, the Zac Efron or the Ted Bundy. Not the Ted Bundy tapes, which are really good also. So anyway, that was a shock. I was not expecting to see James Hetfield. I said, whoa. It's only there for a few seconds. And but yeah, James Hetfield in that movie. So anyway, we got a new caller. I apologize for that little diversion there. But we got area code 912. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mark. I just subscribed to your channel.
Cool.
Under Count Dublevet.
Well, cool. Thank you.
You bet.
You
bet.
What name did you want to go by on the show, though?
You can just call me Bevan.
And where are you calling from, Bevan?
Georgia.
All right. Bevan from Georgia. I lived in Augusta for a while.
Yeah, how'd you find that?
I hated it. I had to...
Did you?
Sorry?
Did you now?
I was in the military.
What did you have to do in Augusta?
Well, I was in the military. I had to go to a full mock suit 4. And I'm not kidding. And it was spring getting into summer. And for those who don't know, MOP level 4, at least it was the full chemical suit with the mask. And it was, you know how humid it is. My gosh, it's ungodly. And the mask, thank goodness it wasn't a real chemical thing when we were doing the war games and the training, but the mask would fill up with sweat. What are you supposed to, you've got to break your seal, right?
Right.
I will say this, and just bear with me for just a second. If you gotta be in Georgia, it's, aside from the sweat, it's actually a good thing to be a MOP level 4 because I didn't get any chiggers. Right?
Right.
See, you know when you're in Georgia, that's one of one of the terrible things about places like Georgia is the chiggers. Holy crap! So
the chiggers and the gnats.
Yeah, but at least the gnats didn't bore under your skin. That was something that growing up on Long Island, we didn't have chiggers. We had ticks but you could see a tick. Chigger. Oh.
Right.
Oh. All right. I've taken up enough. What did you have for us today?
Well, I had called to argue for the tax collectors and the judges and the people that you argue against. But that's not to say that I don't have a great deal of respect for guys that do what you do. I think it's needed, but I don't really see where these officials are doing anything wrong.
You don't think that police officers or prosecutors or tax agents are doing anything wrong?
No, sir. No, sir. In fact, well, I would just have to hear like a premise. I would have to hear, there's a lot of what you say that I agree with. So, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to find a fight with you. But at the base of what they do, I think that they're completely in the right. So, I mean, if you would like make a claim where you are telling me like this is where they're wrong, and let me see if I can find an argument with it.
All right, and you don't have to worry. I mean, we intelligent adults, we can disagree and have an adult conversation, and there's no ire, there's no bad feelings. I mean, I welcome dissent on the show, and I know I only tolerated 40 minutes with the last critic, and I just couldn't take it anymore. But that was because if you watch the video, you can see that he doesn't answer my questions. He just refuses to answer, questions so we can move the argument along. We have to have some point of agreement. But so don't you or anyone feel that it's picking a fight. You and everyone else is welcome to call and counter argue or probe and ask me questions on my arguments all you want. That's one of the points of the show. That's welcome.
Well, I did see where that one, I think that you're talking about that one Galt. I saw where, every time you asked him a question, he just kind of went off into left field. And I can speak as a child, I don't necessarily have to cite or use big words. I can say very simply where I believe that they're right in what they're doing. And my first, if we were talking about IRS or the police or whatever, if they're asking for currency or, dollar bills, it's literally their money.
Yeah. Yeah, there's legal tender laws that make it so that you have to use it. But when you're saying show me an argument that they're wrong, you mean wrong from a basic principle of right and wrong that we understand by the time we're 5. It's wrong to hurt other people and to take things from them by force. That you mean that. You don't mean legal as opposed to illegal.
Well, I would. I'm just curious as to well, you had used the word fair a lot, and you said this is not fair, and I understood. I actually even wrote down something that you had said, and you had said if you believe that you don't have to prove or at least offer up some evidence for a claim, then it's unjust that you be given the opportunity to argue for that claim. I don't think that's exactly what you said, but that's pretty much what you were getting at, and I absolutely agree that you shouldn't be able to argue for a claim that you can't, back up. But are you there?
Yeah, I'm listening. Well, I thought you were leading to a question.
I guess I'm getting a beat on my phone here, but with you there, I believe that as well.
Okay.
I don't know what claim they're not backing up. What claim aren't they backing?
Okay, well, let's first see if we get some agreement. Government is just men and women, right?
Government, yeah. Speaking of, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I understand government to mean like control of the mind. As far as, I'll agree with you for this point that government is comprised of men and women. Yeah.
Okay, great. And these men and women use force and threats to all our communities to make the community pay them, right?
Well, to make them pay them in their currency, the currency that they are creating. I mean, it's illegal to burn money because it's not yours to burn. It's something that it's yours to use, and it's something that they make. It's a pretty fantastic fabric that you can carry around in your breeches pocket all day. It doesn't tear. It's I don't know what kind of fabric they use to make it, but it's a pretty good tool for trading in. And I didn't make it. It's not my money.
Well, that's it, but the question is, and Federal Reserve notes do tear. They tear fairly easy, and they do burn. You can they used to have a tracking device in it. You could put it in your microwave, and you could get it to pop. But they are men and women that force strangers, and people in our community. They force strangers to give them money, right? That's an accurate factual statement.
Yeah, they work for the bank that made that money. And if they want some of what is their money back, they would force the person that had some of their money in their pocket to give it to them. Yeah, but it's their money to take back. They made it.
Well, even before that, when it was just gold and silver, and then it was for a long time, gold and silver wasn't only coined by government. So if I was to use force and I was to force strangers in my community, would you consider me a criminal?
If you were to use force to do what?
To force strangers in my community to give me money.
If you were forcing people in your community to give you back your own property, something that you had made, that I don't think there'd be anything wrong with that. So
if I'm just forcing them to give me, yeah, but if you made me go in a roundabout way here. So if I forced strangers to use my currency, would you consider me a criminal?
Well, we're not being forced to use. I know that I'm not answering your question, but if you made money, I wouldn't be forced to use it. But if it became beneficial for me to use your money, I would. But if you came to me and said, hey, I don't want you in my club of people that are using this money, I'm going to take it all back from you, and I don't want you to be able to get your hands on it anymore, I wouldn't think that you were doing anything unlawful. No, it's your money. You made it.
Yeah, but you're being forced to pay their support. You see, you're forced to pay taxes, and you have to pay those taxes in that. So just if I was to, without getting into, because I think that's a side issue, it gets us away from the actual point. If I forced strangers in the community to give me things of value that they owned, would you consider me a criminal?
Things of value that they were using, like, for example, what would be an example?
We're just trying to get to the basis of, a baseline ethical issue, and okay, it just, in general, if I force strangers to give me their objects of value, would you consider me a criminal?
Just one example of one of those objects. What would be?
I can't possibly see how that's relevant. Well, let's say it's silver bars.
Okay, all right. Silver bars. If you force someone to give someone their silver bars that they had mined, yeah, that would be wrong.
That would be wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
And if it's wrong, okay. So my position and my argument is, and I agree that that's wrong. My position is, it just because it's wrong for me and it's wrong for you. It's wrong for everybody because it hurts people. It's wrong. I don't want my valuables taken from me, and I have to be logically consistent and extend that to everybody else. So my argument is they are men and women forcing strangers to give them things of value, whether it's money or it's, like the Amish have to give, material goods, that they are unethical or immoral, and I don't see that they are anything more than a criminal organization. And so that's my baseline. Now, I always ask somebody, because that's how I judge their actions, off of that. And I have invited people, it's an open invite for anybody who has a counter argument to those facts to try to make an argument that what we call government, whether it is Georgia, whether it's the United States, Canada, or Australia, to make an argument that they are legitimate moral organizations.
Yeah, well, money, as I understand it, it's not necessarily a valuable. It's just a tool that you can use in order to exchange for goods or valuables. And it's a tool that someone else made, and it's a tool that someone else got a large group of people to have faith in. They had faith in it before I got here. So someone had worked really hard in making someone believe that this tool that they created had value. If I have some of their tools in my pocket and I go to court and they say, well, for whatever reason, it's their court. It's not my court. They made the court. They made the system that they're using to say, well, you're going to have to give us some of our tools back that you were using because of this thing, this rule that you broke in our game. Well, it's their tool. It's their game. It's not for me. It's not my money. I don't have any money. I was using their money to buy the gas to put in the car that they made in order to get there. So, I don't know how I can stop someone from taking their property back.
You're not addressing the question. I think you're getting around that.
Sorry, what is the question? I'm sorry, maybe I missed it.
Do you have a counter argument? Because all their support is coerced. You either support them and do what they say, or you are imprisoned or killed in the process. And they force us, that support is forced. Nobody had a choice in whether there was government. So my question is, do you have an argument that would show that they are not a criminal organization because of the force that they use, but they are somehow a moral, legitimate organization? So do you have an argument that proves, or at least tends to prove, that what we know as government, these men and women who force everyone to support them, are a legitimate moral agency or organization?
I can prove that they're a legitimate, organized group of people because, as far as how I interpret organization, I would say that they had a lot more organization than I do, and they work for the people that made whatever these bills are. Whether you're looking at a 1, a 5, a 10, a 20, a 50, whatever, there was a lot of thought that went in just to the artistic value of these things. I've never made anything like that. I've never been able, the man's face on the $1 bill, which is pretty much the quintessential, that's the quintessential dollar. The man's face on it is Washington. These people work for a landmass called Washington. These dollar bills belong to them. I'm just using them. They're not mine to keep. I still don't know if I've answered your question, whether or not they are a cruel organization for organizing to try to get that money back. It's not good or evil as far as I'm concerned. It's just a game that they created that when they catch me speeding, they get some of their property back from me that I'm using. I don't see it as a personal or vindictive act on their part.
I didn't say it was necessarily a personal and vindictive. What we're talking about is, and I don't think you've made an argument that based on facts and logic, of course, that would tend to prove that governments, not just the United States government, but governments, being that they are just men and women forcing the community to pay them, that they are a legitimate organization. And what I preface it is, you would have to have
them in their own property, though. You're paying them with their own property. It's theirs.
You're being.
We don't necessarily have to deal in money. I mean, it's as simple as you could grow a garden and deal in food.
But that's why I said pay them. Well, hold on.
Labor. You can deal in a lot of things. You don't necessarily have to deal in their money.
But I'm talking. That's why I used the general. I said pay. And this goes back to, at least for the United States, this goes back to 1776. And historically, we know, this goes for all governments, nobody was consulted. The people that were going to be forced to live under that government and tolerate it were not given any say in that. And it's that force that's used to set up the organization and keep the organization in place. So, however, because you keep going to 1913 on up, and I don't think that is that is a good way to argue that they are a legitimate organization. Because what I'm getting is that from you, I believe that they're a legitimate organization because all they're forcing us to do is give them back their money, and that we force them to pay. And I got to tell you, as far as an argument that they're a legitimate organization, I don't think that comes even close.
I don't know how they. I'm a carpenter, and I've had a lot of people try to pay me in money, and I work and I have to make my money. But as far as my trade, carpentry go, I've for years refused to work for money, and I did receive goods for my services. It is possible to eat well and not trade in dollars. It's possible.
Yeah.
Now, if you were going to live a lifestyle where you were going to completely just not use dollars, you're not going to be, regarded by the people looking on as, man, that guy's really got it together. You're probably going to look extremely poor.
Well, I got to move on to another caller before we're out of time. I don't think you've made a good argument that it's a legitimate organization because you don't overcome the facts of my argument. That's the force that's used. And I believe that they do tax barter. They do tax trades. So they may not enforce it nearly as well as income tax, but they do that also. I appreciate the call. Maybe call back on a Saturday show when we have a bit more time.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mark, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate the call, Bevan. Look forward to talking to you again. We're going to try to get another call. We have, it's a new caller. We have area code 978. You're live on the No Stay Project. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, Kevin.
Kevin, where you calling from?
I'm in New York.
You must not be from Long Island.
No, I'm not.
Well, we'll keep you. Hey, we'll take those anyway. So what can I do for you today?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what's my procedure. I got a few situations here where I'm deal with what steps I need to take and what will take them in order to get myself.
Okay, what's going on?
Well, I have a black tax situation, and I also moved into a vehicle, and now they've taken my vehicle away because I didn't want to have a license or a license plate or inspections on the vehicle, and so I'm kind of without a place to stay.
Gee, that's awful.
I'm kind of trying to figure out what's my process to get myself out of this situation. I've been listening to you a lot, and I like the procedure that you talk about, but I'm not quite sure what my steps are to get myself out of the situation.
All right, well, one at a time. With the vehicle, was your vehicle seized? Was it stolen by the police?
Yeah.
What was the pretext for doing that?
I didn't have an inspection sticker, and they gave them. I guess they gave me a bunch of tickets that I didn't want to pay for, and it wasn't. I'm a little afraid to deal with these guys because, I don't really much appreciate being around guys with weapons that can do away with you at their whim. So I've kind of avoided dealing with these guys, but at the same time now I feel like kind of a fugitive, and I don't really like that because I'd like to be able to go on with my life.
Well, sure, and I got a question about that in just a second. Somebody's saying here, why Jet 888? There is no law that states we need a driver's license to travel unless we're using it for commerce. That is not true. They have an operator's license, and or a driver's license, and then they have a commercial license. So it's either for a truck. There are different grades of it. They changed the laws. This right to travel stuff. Ooh, geez, it's not true. If you look at the cases that they're all citing, Jet, they're all before they changed the law. All of them. You can't use, if you're going to rely on a case that was written in 1917, you have to consider that they changed the laws, because that's exactly, and I wrote about this in the book, so I'm not going to get into the whole right to travel thing. What I wanted to ask you is, when you got the tickets, Kevin, did you challenge them at all?
Well, no, because I don't really have any way. They don't have any way to get in touch with me, and I don't have an address currently because I was living in my vehicle, and so I didn't really have a way for them to get in touch with me, and I guess I was just sort of in the place where I was sort of looking at them as the same way that I look at phone scammers, where I don't pay attention to them and hang up on them. But I guess that's probably not the best way to have done it. But at this point now, I feel like I kind of have to resolve my dispute with them so I can move forward.
When did you get the ticket?
But I don't really have any way for them to get in touch with me.
Wow. Well, they had to have given you a ticket, right?
Yeah, there's a ticket. They've given me tickets, and that was either I could pay them or not. And so I was kind of going on the assumption or the feeling that, like you were just saying, that we do have to have a license, and from my readings and understandings of travel, you didn't need to have those or the inspection stickers, especially if I look at other people's vehicles around. So if you have a vehicle that's from a different state, like a lot of people live in their vehicles in this area, but they have their vehicles registered in different states like Ohio, where they don't have an inspection. So I was looking at it like, those people don't have to have an inspection, but now I do because I'm physically in this state. So
yeah,
again, I go to that jurisdictional place of, how do your laws apply to me just because I'm here? And the guy from Ohio doesn't have to have an inspection sticker.
Well, that's because there are interstate agreements that, for temporary purposes, someone from Ohio going into New York, they don't have to have that. It's a temporary thing. So if somebody with Ohio plates was to stay more than 6 months in New York, the cops would be giving them tickets. My position regarding the driver's license is there's no evidence, because they can't produce any evidence to support their claim that their Constitution laws apply just because you're physically in New York. The right to travel stuff is not based on a lack of evidence. It's based on legal interpretation that they're going and they're looking at these overturned court decisions that say that travel or driving in the ordinary course of life is ordinary. It doesn't require a driver's license. At the time, it didn't. And that only the extraordinary use of the streets required a license. Under their law, for someone who thinks that the driver's license is actually for commercial, go out and drive a cab. Go and do something where a commercial driver's license, a literal commercial license, is needed. Go drive a truck. And you will find out when you're pulled over, you cannot use that. You can't argue, or you could, but you're not going to be successful. But dude, I have a driver's license. It's for commercial, and no. The basic operator's license does not permit you to operate a commercial vehicle like a cab or a limo or a delivery. Yeah. So it's a gross misinterpretation or deliberately leaving out evidence that they have changed the laws, and it's dishonest. So well, you can contact me off air, and I can help you. I'll do what I can to help you with this. But before I let you go, when did you get the ticket?
There's been a few tickets. They put them on there over like 2 or 3 different tickets, so I just kind of ignored them. It's really kind of a stupidity thing on my part.
What day?
But they've been within the last 6 months. Oh. I don't have the tickets in front of me. I took them with the vehicle.
Oh, good Lord. I'm sorry to gee. All right. Well, get with me off air, markstevens@mail.com, and just briefly, within 30 seconds to a minute, what's going on with the tax situation? Similar
situation where I kind of felt like, I didn't feel like I was getting my money's worth, especially after looking at realizing what the taxes are actually used for. Because for a long time, I always felt like I was doing my part, paying into the tax system and helping out with society. And then I realized that basically what my taxes are doing is stopping bombs and killing strangers. And at that point, then I realized I didn't really want to participate with that, but I wasn't quite sure how to stop participating with that. But I had sort of understood that at some point in history, in our country's history, that we didn't used to be taxed, but now we are, and they flipped it on us. And so I guess I just kind of unsubscribed from that system. And so again, when I unsubscribed from the system, I unsubscribed completely, and I just moved into a mobile abode, if you will, which they now have taken that. So I kind of, that's where my foundation was.
Oh, okay. Well, I gotta wind things up because I got an appointment right after the show. All right. Well, contact me off air about that. I get that. They actually had a Boston legal with James Spader did a great. I don't know if it was a closing argument about not paying. I don't want money that I make being used to kill people 8,000 miles away either. But they kind of they frown on that. So. Get with me off air and I'll see what I can do. If you're not able to, then call back on the Saturday show earlier when we have more time and we can discuss that a little bit more because I think it's terrible what's happened. You're homeless now. So, contact me off air on email and I'll see what I can do.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Right. You're welcome. Oh, man. Never like hearing that. Whoa, you're getting away from me over there. Let me just sum up here that these right to travel stuff. I know there are new people coming to the channel, but the right to travel stuff, as I've mentioned so many times before, it is based on a faulty foundation. The idea that this gang of criminals is not going to actually write the laws that they want. They're going to trick the population. They're going to trick it. This idea that they have to go, they have to give you a way out. I don't even know where that comes from. I don't know what kind of principle of logic or reason they've got to give you a way out. They're criminals, but they got to give you a way out, and they got to trick you because they got to get you to agree to it. No, they're crooks because they're forcing you. The Force. This is the dark side of the Force here, I mean, and they changed their laws. I may not agree. You may not agree with it. I mean, a big sticking point for me was the privilege tax. Privilege tax by the Supreme Court. Every Supreme Court definition that define is pretty much consistent. A privilege tax is a tax on a business. So it seems today, whoa, but can you defeat the whole thing based off of a privilege tax? A case talking about a privilege tax that may not have been talking about motor vehicle taxes. Not necessarily. That's the way the law is. That's why I would rather look at the facts. Show me the facts because before what the law says is relevant, you've got to have evidence of jurisdiction first. Even they'll tell you that. So I'll have to talk about the right to travel stuff again on a different show. And so I'll end the show on this about the war drums. I know today they were talking about not having it escalate, getting to the negotiating table. You can't believe a word that the guy says from the very start. This lying con man grabbing women by the crotch, moving on married women like a bitch, bone spurs to get out of Vietnam. Everything is a lie. He doesn't stand by anything. He said that. That's one of the things you can take to the bank. He doesn't stand by anything. He'll say whatever he has to say. So they can talk about that. But boy, it certainly feels like 2003 again. So I wish I had more time to talk about it, but unfortunately it's going to have to wait to the Saturday show, which I will be live. And we got through an entire show without a tech issue. So that's good. That's good. Appreciate the support of the show. If you'd like to be able to help support the No Stay Project, much needed, much appreciated. It's markstevens.sales.com and markstevens.net. And hey, Government Indicted is available there also. So after looking at the evidence that the principles laid out in Government Indicted, which I talk about here on the show every day, have been where the people using those principles have replicated the success that people that were in the book and before, they were able to replicate those successes. Then if you want to learn more about effectively defending yourself, that you can get Government Indicted, and we also have the scripts available and the motion templates. So, let's not be foul there, Frank. Let's not use the name. I know I've been trying to do my best with not use the insults, especially when it comes to someone like Trump, who's just his whole line of anything anything negative. Oh, lefty. Oh, a never Trumper. Oh, lie, and they're vile, and they're this and they're that. Yeah. I get tired of that. So I don't want to use the insults. I don't think we should. Some people can't be taught, and I had to learn a long time ago that is very true. So. You lay the facts out, you have your argument, you have your logic, you have your propositions leading to your conclusion, and it's up to them to decide. It's just like if people want, they go to the website and they want to say, well, have you had any success at all? Let the evidence speak for itself. Me cheerleading my work, which I don't do, or maybe a little, is meaningless to a rational understanding of the work that I've done. And so you go by the evidence. Show me the facts. So anyway, till we are back live again on the Saturday show. Salud.